goal is transportation.
Okay.
I want to get free transportation.
It's just a little bit of a glare, but that's fine.
Donna
Okay.
Wingate called me and I told her to send it to you
I
guys.
need
She said it's
you.
She said
Oh,
that
do we have the
already
papers, the blank
had
papers
90
for everyone?
Oh, yeah, I can go get them.
We need two for each person.
Yeah.
Two for each person.
How much more time do
She
you
said,
need
well,
to
ask
set
us
up?
to see if they bought it.
We needed
So
the blank
they were trying to
papers
find
for you
out who
guys.
bought 90 passes.
Yeah. And
So
then,
we can send the students.
what, you can go to the bathroom? Are you
They
saying?
want to double the
I don't
Was
know.
it like they saw it on
Okay.
Amazon, so
Let
they
me
purchased them?
see.
Or like-
She just said she got a call, I don't know if it's from them or whatever, and, they said somebody came over here and picked up 90 passes for
From
Cameron,
them?
from
90
Cameron University, from the bus place.
Oh,
And she's like, so she's trying to find out who bought them. I
My
said,
thought was,
maybe
what if
SEC?
My thought was.
That's a lot of damn money.
We don't
The
have.
90 passes,
We always, I took, because Billy came and asked me and I said.
unless that was a
they-
giveaway.
I said, they know that we always ask for donations, right? Because we don't have money.
Yeah,
But what if it was like one of the spin camps or something?
could have been. I have no idea. I said, I know. Then she
Alright.
called me and I said, wasn't us. We didn't buy no, because we can't buy them with the
Yeah.
grant money.
Yeah, we can't buy them because we don't have any money. Used
Yeah.
to be because of the grant, but we just don't have any money.
Someone's here, right?
No, that's me.
Oh,
This
okay.
is me, yeah.
Thank you.
And for you, Francesca. Well, I have to wait till Anthony's here. I was gonna say something, but, forgot she was here.
But yes, we will get started in a few moments. Just waiting for one person.
You warm? Yeah, let me get a napkin. Oh, I got a bag, you have that coming.
It looks like everybody has pens, so that's good.
I keep putting this back in the bag that it's out. And every time I go for a pen.
That's the one you end up grabbing, huh? Always. I'm gonna give this to Deidre. I just put it on her chair.
Okay, yo.
Like right in front of this video right now. Funny enough.
Now we get students back.
Okay.
I have all the pens actually.
Look, the good student, turn her phone off.
Yes, thank you. Just silence the phone.
Can I spin my chair? Ow, I was hungry.
I thought you were saying a bathroom break.
No, I was shopping on
Okay.
my lunch break.
Get down,
I had to
Disney.
go to Five Below, I need to recharge her and stuff like that, so anyway.
Which way did you go to? The same way we do on
I did. Cause I also.
Now we're just
needed
straight
the
for
twins.
street.
Oh. But I
No,
wasn't
I'm not
doing
trying
it.
to say that.
Not ready.
Okay, great, we're all here, yes. Okay, so, hello everyone. I'm sure you're all familiar with who I am. I've had very extensive conversations with everyone in this room. But this is the formal introduction of me as a healthcare professional. And this is my certification for personal training that I can show you all if you're interested in looking over it, the details, the numbers. I know that's important for some people. So yeah, I got this, the most recent certification, and of course, it'll go over a few topics and points today through personal training. Okay? So, just feel free to pass it around, look through it. Today, we're going through holistic health tips. All right? These are tips. You can do all of them, you can do a few of them. It's really up to you. Okay.
What you're doing right now, is this what you plan to do for the students, or is this just something specifically for us?
No, this is the same material and information. It's just we'd be with ice packs for the.
I just want to understand what vantage point we're seeing this from. Okay.
Yes.
We are the
Okay. Well, yeah, because it's all personal information. Some of it we're gonna go over out loud. Some of it is just you understanding more self-awareness. Okay. So now, great segue. We're gonna go over the PACEs and the ACEs. Now, this is something the Student Enrichment Center had out for their students. So I would like to also share it with the S.S.S. students as well. But this is a 2-minute exercise, front and back. It should be behind the first page. If not, I do know some of the pages are out of order, so just, I'll give you guys a few seconds, just bear with me. But they're called the adverse childhood experiences. You do that one first, and then you do the protective and compensatory experiences. So ACE and then PACE.
You want us to do
Okay? Yes. So everybody should have a pen, right? So let's take 2 minutes and do this exercise. Okay, let's see. Okay, 2 minutes. Okay, just 30 more seconds. Okay, it seems like everyone's done, so we're gonna move on. But from this activity, you can see the effects on, it says when you're growing up prior to your 18th birthday, but you can see how the effects of your childhood shape the ways that you respond in community and relationships as you got older. And the purpose of having the ACEs and PACEs together is so that you can combat some of the experiences with, maybe if you didn't have someone who loved you unconditionally, for example, number one, you might have had someone who was an advisor or someone that you did community service with that was able to help fill in that gap, for example. So some of these things you could look over and say, well, I might not have had this during childhood, but I did have something else that still supported me, for example. But again, this is just to be able to have a deeper sense of awareness. And we're going to talk about the inner child and the difference between the wounded inner child versus the healthy inner child. So just keep that little pinpoint in your mind, all right? So we're going to move forward now with my experience. So my experience is I did the Right Foundation for a year, and I became a life coach after it. So what we're going to talk about is social and emotional intelligence. That was just a quick exercise to help you gain more emotional intelligence about yourself from your experiences, right? And then I just showed my certification for personal training, and it is through the International Sports and Science Association, as you guys saw, right? And then the end result is basically if you give me, consistency and your best effort, I could help you rewire your mind with the life coaching and your body with the personal training to act healthier so you live a fuller life, and I can give you a 1-year guarantee on that. If you were my clients, we would go through things related to personal health, social health, emotional intelligence, to give you that holistic approach to things. Because sometimes you have an emotional issue that you might just be treating in a physical way, or vice versa. You might have a physical issue and it's something in your body relating to where an emotion is being held, right? And then we're going to go over that in a bit too. But basically, I started teaching workshops in 2025 last year about living more intentionally. The first one is about grounding yourself, step-by-step techniques, how to do grounding during the seasons and the moon cycle changes, the Schumann resonance, the toroidal field, all very scientific things. This is where I got a lot of pushback from religious communities though, so we'll just leave it at that. The second workshop I taught was about the importance of your heart and the energy that you bring out into your community. We talked about the 7 degrees of influence, how each level that you interact with influences, that level of community or society or work or your family or your romantic partner with your degrees of influence, right? And then I talked about ways to, do self-inventory with your intake levels, biomechanic tips, nutrition, emotions, relationships, ways that you can do inventory, and then again, how they impact other people with your choices, right? And then some people, right, they may not be even aware that what they do or what they say really impacts other people. So we want to make sure that we are emotionally intelligent, but also socially intelligent with how we are living our life because of the impact we all have, an ability to create on someone around us, right? And then the third one was with the beautiful staff meeting I taught with the Student Enrichment Center, and I was talking about how to take accountability for your life / your health, and then, I forgot this was a touchscreen, I'm sorry. And then ways to improve that through holistic health backed by neuroscience. And half of this presentation is going to be neuroscience facts on how to stay calm, okay? So moving forward now, we're going to talk about self-accountability. So what do you guys think of when you think of self-accountability?
Well, I'm like, okay, keep myself accountable, but then like accountable for what? And I don't know, so I feel a little bit vague about like, I don't know.
Okay. Go ahead.
Responsibility for your actions, whether they're negative or positive.
Yeah, okay. So we all have a sense of understanding of what sense of accountability is. But specifically, today I'll be talking about how to manage your intake levels, which is a way to be self-accountable, right? So managing your intake levels does not just mean your water and fluid levels, because we are mostly water, which we will cover later, right? But we also have to intake what type of foods we are intaking. Are we having things that are inflammatory or anti-inflammatory? Are we having things that have a balance of protein, carbs, and fats? But also, are we making sure that we're intaking enough of the 16 minerals needed to sustain the body, and 7 of those are electrolytes. People may not be familiar with this, so we're going to go over that later. We have a few handouts, of course. And then intake levels, again, when I was just speaking about the degrees of influence, it is your relationships influence or the way you socialize. Think of it per week. What do you do per week or per day that affects you? Either your family, your friends, your partnerships, and those partnerships, again, can be a business relationship, like, okay, me and my boss, me and my coworker, me and my employee, because I'm an entrepreneur, I may not have as much things to keep track of in terms of relationships, but I still have to, keep business partnerships in the forefront if, you're doing a lot of stuff by yourself. You still have to reach out to people. Everybody needs community, right? Or platonic partnerships or romantic, right? There's different levels of that. But again, think of who you interact with every single week. Are you with your family for the majority of your day, or are you at work for the majority of your day? Are you, like me, I'm in school full time, so that's majority of the week. I'm in classes, I'm studying, I'm around people, so on the weekends, I take time to look at all this stuff and say, okay, did I meet the mark or did I miss the mark? so to speak, right? And then there are some things that we just need to do, like we need to have fun, we need to explore, we need to try new things. So you gotta make sure that you're putting that in your schedule also, like self-care, going to a new restaurant, going, having a change of environment, things like that could also help with socializing, right? And balancing those things out. And this, I would be remiss to not point out that online interactions and digital participation is a part of our intake levels, right? Everybody can agree here. I'm on my phone right now. What am I doing? I'm posting something online, right? And you got to think of the websites, the social media apps, the things that you intake on a daily or weekly basis, right? Like, are you scrolling for hours of the day instead of socializing with people, right? Or are you listening to podcasts instead of going out and making friends? Are you watching movies and TV shows and playing video games all the time instead of studying? So it's also intaking, like, how much of your energy you're putting into other things, because you also want to make sure you're self-accountable so that you could succeed, right? When you're doing all these things, you're managing your water, your food, your the healthy relationships, your online participation or digital participation, you're able to be more successful and less distracted in life, okay? So all of this self-accountability is the holistic way of looking at things. What am I intaking? What am I putting my focus and my energy majority of the week, right? Does anybody have any questions before we move forward? Okay, great. So, this is a part of the demonstration. We need to have one of the blank pieces of paper utilized for this, but we're gonna just take a minute and a half, a minute if it takes you, not too long. But we're gonna write down, actually, let me go back, sorry. So you guys are gonna write down how often do you track your water levels, your food levels, and what type of relationships do you, put your energy or your effort in for most of the week. And I want you guys to write down these things as if it's the energy that you're putting out, like if you were a battery, what's charging you? What's recharging you? What's keeping that energy in that battery, okay? Okay, just take a few more seconds to write a few things before we move forward. Okay, does anyone want to share about their battery and what fuels them or charges them during the week?
So, I monitor my water and my food intake daily. I definitely had a period where I felt like I had accomplished something if I had 1 bottle of water a day. And so I have really worked hard. No, really, I have really worked hard because I'm getting older and I don't want to need dialysis, right?
Yeah.
So I really worked hard to pretty much eliminate soda and juice from my diet and try to at least drink 4 bottles of water a day. Sometimes I get more because at one point I was doing half my body weight in water a day. It really kind of depends on what I do, because also what I do to recharge my battery is spending time with like friends and going out of town and traveling. And generally when that happens, it involves lots of liquor. And that really, just gonna tell you, and that really throws me off my water. And so it's like, I get a good thing going and then something throws me off and it takes me at least another month to get back on the horse.
Okay.
But I do try to be intentional with my water and my fluid intake. Food, I don't have a great appetite. I haven't for some years now. And so I am cognizant of it to the point that I at least make sure that I eat once a day. I do also know that I like junk, like I like sweet stuff. So that also can be a thing where by 9 or 10 o'clock at night, I realize I haven't really had anything to eat, but I ate some chips or some cookies and a bottle of water, and I'm good. Like a cup of coffee, you know. So I try to be cognizant of having an actual meal,
Okay.
at least once a day. And I know that's probably not the best, but it's better than it had been. Because I'm also diabetic.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. We have to move forward now for time's sake. But thank you, Ebony, for being vulnerable. We appreciate it. So we're gonna move on to the next handout here. I'm sorry, we are on a time schedule. We are gonna go over the emotions wheel, and then this is important to lead into our next topic of day entertainment. So you all have a non-colored handout. It should be next. But basically, to just go over the emotional intelligence part here, some people may not identify the core emotion. That's the one in the middle is the core emotion. And they have maybe an easier time understanding a surface emotion or something on a second or say third string instead of the core emotion, right? And a lot of times people may confuse what they're feeling as well. So for example, someone who, and going from the outside in, I'm saying, for these examples. Okay, so someone who is feeling maybe, let's talk about isolated or apathetic or bored. They might not put that back to the core emotion of feeling sadness, right? And then another example, and may be less apparent, you know, is going over to the fear circle here. Someone who's...
Can you tell me what all these things say? Because they're white, so we can't really see.
Yeah.
any
Oh,
of
I
these
wrote it
words.
down.
I can-
Scared, anxious, well, it starts with
for
No,
the
I
fear?
can see them.
Okay.
Humiliated.
Well, I need my glasses
Here,
on.
go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, some of it was because of the
I
color.
need glasses today.
But yeah,
Okay.
so going on to the core emotion of fear. On the third and second layers, someone who is feeling humiliated, maybe someone thinks that of being the core emotion of anger. Like, oh, someone embarrassed me, someone humiliated me, I'm so angry. But really the core emotion is their fear. They're afraid of something that happened, so they feel humiliated, right? And then it's the same thing, feeling disrespected on that third string emotion goes back to feeling fear or afraid. Someone challenging their perspective or their authority, they could say, well, I feel disrespected because they feel fear from, you know, whatever that situation that made that feeling arise, right? And then a lot of times people don't, not that they don't understand their emotions, but they kind of ignore it. Or they push that emotion away, like, I don't want to feel this right now, and they wait until they're triggered, and then they address the emotion. So sometimes people don't understand their emotions until that emotion keeps coming up, and they're like, oh, well, you know, now I gotta address this because it's not just my boss that's, you know, making me feel this way, it's also my partner, it's also my mom, it's also my friend, it's also, you know, so and so and so and so on. Right? So we want to make sure that we're understanding and identifying these emotions as close to the core that we can, so then we can release it. And then I'm going to go into this next slide, but does anyone have any questions before we move on?
Well, I was just gonna comment, like, see the threatened where it's, the core emotion is anger, but I would have thought it would be, fear. It would stem from fear.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, insecure, threatened, goes back to feeling anger, absolutely. So this is something that, you know, I would just go back and, you know, have this maybe in your office or maybe on your fridge and check in with your emotions and say, okay, before I open the fridge again, I'm gonna say, how am I feeling today? Or before I make this phone call, you know, how am I feeling right now? And what's the core of that feeling or that emotion that's coming up? Okay, so color is not on here. I do apologize, but I have the in color version of it if you guys need to write down any of the things that we're not easily able to read on the paper. Just saying, so I'll keep it here.
One thing that we talk about in my public health class for students is sometimes we normalize this. So like if a student is feeling inferior or if they're feeling overwhelmed, we normalize that as, well, yeah, you're in school, you're a full-time student. And so they may not dig, I'm thinking those students may not then dig all the way down to that core emotion because they're like, that's normal, don't need to dig into it.
Right,
You know,
right.
They should probably.
Yeah, and this is a big, of course you could attest to this, but this is a big deal in the healthcare industry today because a lot more people are anxious and depressed. And they're like, oh, well, that's just normal. You know, instead of understanding, hey, why? Why are they anxious in the first place? You know, why do they feel like they're not able to get through that sadness, right? So just think about, you know, how you live life, how you identify with yourself, and are you checking in with your emotions, right? Because this could be a daily thing, this could be an hourly thing, however it comes up for you, how it comes up for you, right? But that was a part of my beginning of my life coaching. They gave specific assignments for people, and one of them that they kept giving me over and over and over was the blindfold test. And it would say, okay, tell me every 5 minutes an emotion you feel. Close your eyes, cover your eyes, tell me how you feel. Because I was not unidentified, but I was not able to identify what I was feeling when I was looking around and, you know, talking to people because I was hyper vigilant. So I was like high alert for the wrong thing, basically. So that was a part of my life coaching process to even understand, hey, what am I feeling right now? So these are things that it's not easy to just flip a switch is what I'm saying with that. It takes a lot of work. Okay, so leading into this next part, so what we call name it to tame it is a very powerful practice in life coaching. But if you haven't heard of this before, when emotions or feelings arise, name them to release the impact of them on you. So then you could sit with yourself, feel it, and then move forward after you release that emotion. So for example, naming your anger helps you to relax. Naming your grief to let go and move forward. And grief is a very complex emotion. It's probably not on the chart because it is an amalgamation of a few emotions together. But of course, people understand that grief has a core emotion of sadness behind it. All right. Naming the sadness allows you to process it and allow in joy again. Just like how people maybe feel angry and they tense up, like they get their shoulders next to their ears, or they get that tightness in their jaw. You know, if you name the anger, you're able to relax. Just like if you name the sadness, you're able to let that heaviness go so that you could allow in positive experiences and other emotions to just, you know, be able to filter through you, right? We don't want to be stuck in an emotion. That's why we learn to identify them. And after you're able to identify them, you can name it to tame it. All right? So that's the concept. Naming the shame. Shame is also another complex emotion like grief. But behind shame, the core emotion is fear. All right, think of how many times you feel fear, and a lot of times you might feel shame along with that. Maybe you're afraid to speak up, or you're afraid to express how you really feel because of that shame underneath the fear. Okay, so just some things to think about. But the more you practice this naming it to tame it, the more you're able to trust yourself. And the more you do that, the lower your cortisol levels will be. You're not going to be in fight or flight or triggered all the time, right? If you understand what you're feeling and that emotion, you're able to, you know, get it out of your system. So the more your nervous system will stay regulated is the end goal of this, right? The ultimate end goal of this practice is to be able to get to that root of the feeling at the core so that it does not control your life and the way that you see things, right? So emotions and feelings can sometimes be layered, like we talked about primary, secondary, and third string or third layer emotions in that example. Okay, so moving forward from this, we just went to the wheel. Now we want to talk about the neuroscience behind being grateful. So does anyone here practice gratitude?
I just bought a gratitude journal.
Yay, awesome. Okay, I know it's some of these holistic health things are now becoming more popular. Like how people are like, oh, let's do meditation now. And it's like, wow, we've been meditating for a long time, but yeah. So being grateful, neuroscience research today shows that our brain cannot hold anxiety and gratitude at the same time. Does anybody know why that is? It's on the board. Because these emotions trigger competing neural networks, parts of our brain, that psychologically are impossible to hold intense fear, which is anxiety, and deep appreciation, which is gratitude, at the exact same moment. So, if you're trying to be anxious and grateful at the same time, the mechanism operates through a neurological tug of war in your limbic system and your prefrontal cortex. And the next handout that I want to go over is your limbic system. It's a blue page. It's probably in the back. I do apologize that it's out of order. But if it is labeled the limbic system, yeah, that one, right there, yeah.
Picture of the brain.
Mhm.
The brain.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to take a picture of your slide?
Oh, yeah, sure. Is everybody on it? Yes, okay, that one. All right, I just want to make sure. Okay, so we're going to go over the limbic system after this stuff, right? But so the anxious state, right, that we just talked about, is driven by the amygdala. And that's on the bottom of that handout. So you could read all the important things that the amygdala does. But the amygdala acts as the brain's alarm system, which triggers fight or flight threat detection. So that's what's happening when you're in an anxious state. Your amygdala is triggered and it's saying you're not safe, there's a threat detected. Okay? And then now, when you're in the grateful state, the gratitude, practicing gratitude, right? You're activating the medial part of your prefrontal cortex, which is associated with emotional regulation, rational thought, and rewarding happy feelings. So that stimulates neurotransmitters like what's saying the rewarding feelings are the dopamine and serotonin, which is called feel-good hormones. And if you all know about serotonin, 90% of that is through your gut microbiome. So when we talk about nutrition and having a balanced intake, it literally affects your ability to feel good and feel happy. Okay, so that's how all of this is connected, and it plays a bigger role in your life to make sure you're tracking these things. Okay? Oops, I forgot. Again, it's a tap screen. Okay, and then some habits that prevent being grateful that maybe some people who just haven't practiced gratitude daily, and they might just feel more like a muscle memory to feel anxious or to worry. Some habits that prevent gratitude are self-pity, complaining, comparison, isolation, entitlement attitudes, lack of sleep. Very big part. Again, sleep, nutrition, all these mental things are connected. Lack of sleep and having a lack mentality. We're going to have an example of that later. If you're unfamiliar of a lack mentality, that's basically saying that you have limiting beliefs about yourself and that prevents you from moving forward. So you feel like you're always at a deficit or a lack in life. All right. So really important stuff. How to be grateful is literally how to live a more expressive, emotionally controlled, motivated, less afraid life. And then it's also the amygdala is responsible for interpreting emotional nonverbal cues, otherwise known as body language. So you guys can kind of see where neuroscience, behavioral science plays a part in relationships, because you could have a friend or a family member and just listen to their responses to you and say, oh, their amygdala is not working properly, or their prefrontal cortex is not properly attuned in the situation. So they may not be able to understand your emotions. They may be in that triggered fight, flight, or freeze mode, and then give you a response that is from a triggered state of mind. So just keep that, in the back of your head as well. You could literally listen to how people respond to you and determine if they're healthy or not healthy in that way. So now we're going to go on to the rest and reflect part of the process. So resting and reflecting is basically taking a step back and resting from the situation, conversation, or thought process. So when things arise from a heightened state of emotion or conflict, the response is always a trigger of a negative response if you do not reflect or take a step back. So negative responses are either an elevated level of cortisol in your body or a response that you regret later on down the line because it was from the wounded inner child. And if you haven't heard of the wounded inner child, it's basically how we respond after trauma from our childhood that later on shapes our decisions after the fact. Okay? So then just to go over a few of these last slides, and then we'll go over the rest of these handouts here. But the wounded inner child is, something that is a psychological framework representing the subconscious mind that holds unresolved trauma, unmet emotional needs, and repressed emotions from your early childhood development. Now, I will say trigger warning, what we're going to go over may be triggering for some people, but it is a part of the emotional understanding and, self-accountability. So some of these wounds, the wounded inner child, some of these wounds stem from adverse experiences that had emotional, psychological, or physical neglect included in them. Okay? And some of these include having conditional love or excessive criticism. Some of these things are from traumatic events or physical instability where you didn't feel like you had a community to even reach out to after, dealing with whatever you're dealing with at home. Or if you're someone who constantly, physical instability, moved around a lot, went from different schools, different environments, that is a way that tells, your inner child or the young version of you that you don't feel safe because you're constantly changing, right? Community, again, is very important. So we want to make sure that we're understanding ourselves and our needs, but also looking at how our past impacted us today. Okay, and then having one's feelings dismissed, shamed, or invalidated. An emotionally unintelligent parent does not raise an emotionally intelligent child most of the time, right? And if you're someone who doesn't feel safe enough to express your emotions, then what do you think happens later on in life? We're going to talk about it, but just think about how these things could impact you later on, right? And then unstable caretakers from substance or domestic abuse. Of course, that creates a sense of feeling inferior or having a wounded inner child mentality, all right? And then going through these really quickly, because trauma lives in the body and the nervous system, when a child's emotions are constantly invalidated, they learn to disown their needs. So conditional love, excessive criticism creates a thought that says, I don't deserve love, right? Think about that. Think about the impact on your community. If you feel like you don't deserve love, or I have to work hard for love. Maybe I don't deserve love might not be the thought that forms, but maybe I have to constantly people please and work really hard to prove that I could, receive love that way, right? And then number 2, developing survival masks, like people pleasing, perfectionism, emotionally shutting down. All those things are survival tactics that kept you safe in childhood, and you might not think about how, to grow out of that as an adult, especially if you're someone who doesn't own their needs, doesn't ask for help, right? And this is where it gets really dangerous, because then you could stay trapped in abusive relationships because you are not taking care of your needs and you're doing survival tactics that is just trying to make sure your body's safe. Like the environment may not be safe, but I'm just going to do this so my body feels safe, right? And then number 3, you might reenact childhood wounds, choosing unavailable partners, fearing abandonment, self-sabotaging success or relationships, which is a form of self-harm. If you're someone who never chooses healthy relationships, never chooses to put yourself first, right? That is a form of self-harm, okay? I want us to all be on the same page there. But think about, from these things, you may have a familiarity for toxicity, from that childhood who didn't have, as a caretaker, maybe they had someone who only expressed anger, right? So then they choose a partner. Hey, this person reminds me of my dad. And they do the same cycle later on in adulthood, right? So that's why this is really important, because they may not be aware of these things and reenact their childhood, keeping them in that cycle. So this is why this really important information that we went over the PACEs and ACEs, right? Things to keep track of from your childhood because it does affect yourself when you're older, all right? And then this is just an exercise. You don't have to say it out loud, but think of the wounded inner child personally. So if you often feel blank, this is acting from a wounded inner child, okay? So think of, do you often feel guilty when setting boundaries? And do you set boundaries in the first place, right? Do you feel guilty after you set boundaries? Number 2, are you afraid of conflict or confrontation? Okay. Number 3, are you addicted to validation or numbing through food, substances, or work? And then the last one, do you feel like you're too much or not enough? Okay. And you could feel both of those at the same time also. Those are not, opposites. Some people feel like they're doing too much and also they're never enough. So going back to this example, right, of having their emotions dismissed, shame invalidated, leading to that I don't deserve love, that negative self-belief, right? Too much, not enough. Also a negative self-belief that formed from a childhood experience. So just think about those things and think about if you still do those things that you maybe formed out of habit from childhood. Think about, are you still an adult acting that way? Okay. And then moving on to the next slide. So we did not have time to talk about degrees of influence, but we have really cool facts now that we've gone through neuroscience here about how to self-regulate. So it is a handout that looks exactly like this, but going through holistic health defined on this first handout, I want to talk about what holistic health is. From ScienceDirect.com, holistic health is defined as the healing approach that emphasizes the balance and harmony among the mind, body, and soul, as well as the individual's relationship with their environment and the universe. And then I put in parentheses, this is the concept of the web of life from shamanism. So it's saying how your actions affect the community, and the community affects society, society affects the globe, and when everything is in balance, it affects the plants, the animals, the water, the air we breathe, everything as a web of life. Okay? Right? Having that harmony. So holistic health is based on the belief that well-being is a natural state achieved through this balance, also known as medical empathy. And then moving on to this page of the charts of health, right here. So holistic health is defined in a few different examples, but these are just a few benefits of how to improve your nutrition through holistic ways. And then you could, just take time and look through those things. You have increased energy levels, mood improvement, balanced hormones, strengthened immune system, improves your sleep, improves digestive health, and prevents disease. So those are important things from having a holistic nutrition diet. And then moving on to the next one here, we have some handouts on how to track these things. So we went through some physical and emotional things. So you can track your daily mental health, and here's a few examples. So this is my life coaching example here. This is what I would use with a client. And say, okay, are you tracking daily, weekly? How often are you tracking? Are you honest with yourself? All right. And then with this personal training tracker here that I have, should be behind it or close to it. Again, I apologize, it's out of order. But this is an example with the personal training daily trackers. And then they have, examples, either a visual way to track it or a journaling written in way to track it. And these are just examples of how you could do that at home, make copies or look things up online. But here's a few examples, okay? All right, so we've gone through the definition, holistic health examples, and ways to track it, okay? All right, so now we are caught up to talking about the ways to calm yourself physically. Okay, and this is just some education. If you guys are familiar with it, you could just, sit here, let it go in one ear out the other. But to go through this slideshow with you all really quickly, basically, what you could do to calm your body is to make sure you're properly maintaining your body. So what does that mean? The human adult body is 60 to 70% water, depending on your age, height, weight, sex, body mass index, and then overall composition of your fat, your muscle, your bones, and your fascia mass. Okay, so then it shows an example of, remember how we talked about, are you getting enough intake of the 16 minerals, 7 electrolytes? Well, these are some of the main electrolytes that people are familiar with, and it is sodium, chlorine, magnesium, calcium, and potassium. So when you're having a balanced intake of these items, electrolytes, it helps balance the fluids in your body, maintain your blood's proper pH levels, and carries the electrical signals from your nerves to your muscles, or from your brain to certain body parts to tell you to, move or function properly, okay? And then 1/3 of the body's protein comes from collagen. You could read about the importances of it. I put a few bullet points. But collagen is the most important part of your body, the structural glue that holds everything together. So think of your skin, your nails, your hair, your joints, your bones, your fascia, your blood vessels. All of that needs collagen, okay? And some examples of collagen we're going to go over in the next page here, but the key nutrients needed for collagen is vitamin C, sulfur, zinc, and copper, okay? So when you maintain your electrolytes and your different vitamin levels in your collagen, that's a way for your body to properly calm itself down. Did you have a question?
No, I was gonna ask you what that 1/3 was, but it's okay.
Okay, yeah. So you guys could read through that at your leisure. This is an example that you guys, I'll pass around, but these are anti-inflammatory and inflammatory foods that you can look through for some examples. I'm not a nutritionist, so I cannot say what to eat and what not to eat. I can just give some tips. Okay, so going through a few pictures of them. These are some foods that have high vitamin C in it, because we were just talking about collagen, right? So these are a few things to eat. So for example, Brussels sprouts, oranges, bell peppers, broccoli, kiwi, grapefruit, cauliflower, strawberries, kale, mango, cabbage, bananas are some examples for how to have proper vitamin C levels in your body. I like papaya because papaya has a lot of these electrolytes already in it, and it's just one fruit, so I eat that all. Yes?
I was gonna mention, I didn't know if you knew, but with the kiwi, you could actually eat the peel with it.
Gross.
I never did.
I have not tried that.
Why do you want fur in your mouth?
You can rub
Okay,
it off,
so
but
it's
not
it's
even touch it.
doable.
You won't even touch
Okay,
it.
I believe you. I have not tried that myself.
And I won't.
But some sulfur-rich foods are cruciferous vegetables like kale, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, turnips, bok choy, radishes, horseradish, sauerkraut. And then some protein foods are fish, poultry, eggs, nuts, legumes, cheese, whey, tofu, soy, tempeh, quinoa, lentils, and beans. And then allium vegetables such as some of these are prebiotics as well. Garlic, onions, chives, leeks, shallots, I know are prebiotics. But they also have asparagus, turmeric, greens, buckwheat, coffee, cacao, cocoa, and then miso. If you've ever had miso soup, sulfur-rich vitamin there. And then you have some foods that boost your immunity with zinc. They have brown rice, whole wheat, oats, millet, leafy greens, yams, nuts, dried beans, lentils, pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds, eggs, basil, oregano, cocoa powder, sunflower seeds, fermented whole grains. Some of these, as you heard, they repeat. You can have one thing and it has 3 vitamins and minerals in it, right? And then copper, examples of copper, again, whole grains, kiwi, beans, eggs, spinach, tuna, almonds, all right? And then going on to the slide here, you guys have this example, right? It's mostly blue, and it's talking about the importance of water in your body, because guess what? We're mostly water, okay? So, and then I have something about the brain and water, but yeah. So this is an example of an athletic, muscular, adult man, 75% water. His lungs are 90% water, blood 82% water, skin 80% water, muscles 75% water, brain 90% water. Okay, bones 22% water. Why is it important to the brain that you drink enough water? Does anyone know what happens if you don't drink enough water to your brain?
It'll detach from
We don't want it to dry out.
Yeah, it'll dry up.
Yes.
It'll
So-
literally pull away
So
from
your
that.
brain shrinks.
Oh, does it
Your
really?
brain literally shrinks
It literally
and
does.
pulls away from it, from the walls around your skull,
Oh my god, I better
if
keep
you don't drink enough water.
Yeah.
And it is 90% water, as we see. So if you're dehydrated, you literally cannot think properly.
Like, think about babies, how
Okay.
you can see, like, if they're dehydrated, if they have a little dip right there. That's just
Oh, really?
shrunk a little bit.
It
Yeah.
shrinks.
Yeah.
Actually, you're familiar with this. So that's why I will always ask people, did you drink water today? Have you had enough water? Did you drink water today, Mom? Every time I see her now. Because, you know, and I'm not going to talk about people's health conditions, but there are a lot of things like fibromyalgia, like brain fog, fatigue. It's stuff related to just your nerves. Like, you will have more pinched nerves because your brain is not able to send those electrical signals properly if you don't have enough water. And again, your brain literally shrinks away from your cranial walls in your head if you don't drink enough water. So that is the importance of drinking enough water. Not to mention, we're 70 to 75% water. Okay?
I'm glad you never asked me if I drink water.
Water for the rest of the
Never
day.
Well, we shared.
Your mood can also
We heard what you
Yeah.
shared, so I'm
I'm
not
saying
going to go
I'm
into
trying
that.
to do that. You never asked me if I had water.
I didn't hang with her.
But yes, so everybody sees the importance of these foods and why drinking enough water is important, right? Okay, so now moving on to this handout really quickly. It's just to talk about a holistic way of living, otherwise known as the religion of Buddhism. It's a black and white handout.
Yeah, it's in there somewhere.
But to just remembering the beliefs and how our childhoods formed us, right? This is an exercise that you can look at and determine, you know, how to stay accountable, how to be mindful as you live life. So the Buddhist approach of things, and then this is an online kind of summary, different explanation of each of the 8 paths. But the Eightfold Noble Path is to use the right views, and that leads to having the right thoughts. And having the right thoughts leads to the right speech or communication. And then having the right speech leads to the right conduct. Having the right conduct leads to the right livelihood. Having the right livelihood or lifestyle, this is another way to say that, leads to the right effort, the choices you make, the effort, right? And then the right effort overall leads to the right mindfulness. And then the right mindfulness leads you to a life of meditation or the right meditation. So you could go through these, just like, you know, going through the emotions wheel, and you could track during the day, like, did I have the right views today? Did I have the right thoughts? Did I talk to people? My speech, my conduct, my effort, was that in the right place? Or was it maybe misplaced somewhere else? Or was I triggered by an emotion and it stopped me from being able to think and speak the right way? Okay, so this is just an example of how meditation, the Buddhist way of meditating or living life, is also a way to live holistically, you know, to just take everything into account, right? And it should be, you know, something that we are aware of, how we conduct ourselves, how we view ourselves and the world, and how we are mindful and make efforts the right way, you know? Like we said, we all impact the people around us, right? Our childhoods impact us later in life, right? Okay, so now moving on to how to calm your body through your nervous system. Okay, so we went through so many things at this point, but this is why the ice pack would come in here. But just to go through a few of these things, these are the 2 handouts that you guys could take home and look at, but we'll go through a few more of them on this slide. And I do apologize that I didn't make this into a slideshow, but I'll go over them really quickly because a few of these are exercises that we're about to do together. All right, so nervous system hacks for stress. Leverage your body first actions to quickly switch off your fight or flight response, which is known in your nervous system as your sympathetic nervous system. And once you switch off that fight-flight response, you activate your rest and digest state, which is your parasympathetic nervous system. So sympathetic to parasympathetic, if I didn't say that properly, I apologize. But stimulating your vagus nerve, or also known as sending safety signals to your body from your brain, helps you rapidly lower your heart rate and reduce cortisol levels. Again, we talked about how cortisol is stress, and elevated levels of stress lead to a lot of not good things with your health, right? So these highly effective rapid nervous system resets are categorized here below. What I'll speak about is breath work, vagus nerve hacks, and then temperature resets. I would like to teach about grounding and somatic therapy, but it's not enough time for that. So the psychological sigh, has anyone heard of that? No? Okay. So the psychological sigh is where you inhale deeply through your nose and then take a quick second inhale to fully inflate your lungs out, and then you exhale very slowly through your mouth. So this quickly restores calm by inflating collapsed air sacs and maximizing carbon dioxide release. So at the end of your, I know it sounds funny, but I know at the end of your release, you want your diaphragm to be completely empty, right? So this is a demonstration we could all do together, but so one deep inhale and then a second quick inhale,
It can't be that
and then
deep if I
release.
gotta
So
breathe another one.
I want to laugh so bad. But yes, that is a way to psychologically sigh. All right? You guys feel a difference?
It kind of woke me up.
Yeah, that's great. You're getting more oxygen to your brain. Okay, so then the extended, well, this is something that you do multiple times, right? It's a way to meditate, a way to practice resetting your nervous system, okay? So then the extended exhale release, or some terms call it box breathing. I like using that one because it's easy for people to understand. It's 4 counts, so 4, 4, 4, 4 makes a box, wow. But basically you inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, release for 4 seconds, pause for 4 seconds, and then redo the whole thing again. So it's like you're making a little box. But yeah,
Don't stop all this breathing until it's time. All I hear while you're talking is.
We're practicing.
And you repeat it. Okay? So these exercises, the psychological sigh and extended exhale, or the box breathing, those are ways to take you out of an anxious state or an angered state. So if you ever heard of people saying, take a hike, buddy, take a walk, take a lap around the block, because they're too angry or too worked up and they need to get some more oxygen in. So doing this breath work and activating your vagus nerve, again, tells you to that you're safe, sending safety signals from your brain to your brain, wherever it is, all right? And then, of course, we all know deep breathing allows oxygen to flow more to your brain. So you're telling yourself, hey, relax, in 2 different ways, okay? So then talking about the cold temperature physical resets is where the ice pack would come in. But for example, I'm sorry. Another vagus nerve hack is also singing or humming, because when you do this, it activates the larynx, which is directly connected, it's your throat, to the vagus nerve. So slowly humming or singing pumps the metaphorical brakes on your stress response that way. Okay, so singing, humming, doing deep breathing exercises, all these things activate your vagus nerve. And another way, and the last way we're going to talk about, is the cold, utilizing ice cold water, splashing it on your face when you wake up. Helps you wake up quickly, right? Or taking a cold shower when you wake up, helps you wake up naturally, right? Activating that vagus nerve. Holding an ice pack on the back of your neck, 30 seconds at least, but 30 seconds to 2 minutes activates that vagus nerve. All right, and then it says that the sun temperature drops activates your vagus nerve and instantly grounds a racing mind. All right, and then these are just some different types of therapeutic exercises, but they have a jaw and shoulder release, a butterfly hug, body scanning, and stretching to help you somatically release emotions. And then there's 2 handouts here, but there's some more vagus nerve stimulation things, like there's an ear massage,
gargling water, the cold exposure that we talked about. Some things that they do in EMDR therapy, like gazing for 30 seconds from the left and then to the right, triggers the parasympathetic activation of the vagus nerve. And then we just did diaphragmatic breathing exercises. So we've gone through half of this already. And then this is the example of what it looks like in your body of the activation of parasympathetic nerves versus sympathetic, right? So that fight, flight, freeze versus the rest, recover, digest. So as you can see, your brain and your spine are related to every single nerve in your organs. So when you are activating that parasympathetic nerves, you constrict your pupils, stimulate saliva, slow your heartbeat, constrict airways, stimulate activity in your stomach as digestion, stimulates your gallbladder, you're activating your intestines and contracts your bladder, versus on the right side with the sympathetic nerves, it dilates your pupils, inhibits saliva or salivation, increases your heartbeat, relaxes your airways, inhibits stomach, gallbladder, and activity of your intestines, secretes epinephrine and norepinephrine, which helps your kidneys filter things out and detox and clean your blood, as well as relaxing your bladder. So this is the physical, biomechanical explanation of what goes on when you relax your nerves. Okay, so it's 4 o'clock.
What's the butterfly thingy here?
Oh, yes, okay. So, and I'll do this in front of the camera. So the butterfly hug is part of EMDR therapy, but it's basically where you're training your left side of your brain, the hemispheres of your brain, right? So the left and right side to sync together. So you do activities that you have to focus to be able to cross those hemispheres together. So you put your right arm to your left shoulder and your left arm to your right shoulder and you tap. That's the butterfly hug. And a lot of people, they do it like on their shoulders or their chest, and they do things like affirmations or self-soothing, like I'm safe right now. It's okay to relax. I'm in this room. My body is safe. My mind is safe. There's no one harming me right now. I can relax. I can breathe. And just doing that 30 seconds to 2 minutes helps you calm down. So I do that a lot. Again, this breath work, these vagus nerve activations, they are great for when you're in a state of anxiety, panic, stress, whatever it is. You do these activities and you do feel a difference.
I do the cold one at night. Like I really like I'm turning my brain off at night. So if I can't sleep, I put an ice pack on top of my head while I'm laying in bed.
Oh.
And I'm telling you, instantly sleep. I wake up with the ice pack like over here somewhere, and I'm like, oh, I fell asleep.
Yeah, people do that also. Like they put
Or
an
you put it
ice
on your
pack on
chest.
their chest.
Yeah.
Yes, they put it on their head or their chest, and then it allows their body's cortisol levels and their temperature to regulate and go back down. So if you do
It's
that
like
same
an
thing
off
with
switch for me.
the back of your neck, that's what I'm saying. It helps you relax and calm down. And it brings you back to the present moment. When you're in your body and not so much in your mind, you're able to be in the present moment and talk to people instead of from that wounded inner child when they're 7 years old. Because I could teach you about a lot of different stuff, but basically, like it said in that slideshow, you know, your nervous system tracks the trauma and the unresolved emotional needs. So sometimes when you're triggered, you go back to that state of responding from the age you were. So if someone says something that triggered, you know, a traumatic event from when you're 7, 10, 12 years old, and it shows in research, you respond at the level of age you were.
Oh.
It's like an emotional flashback is what they call in psychology. It's an emotional flashback, so you respond at the same age when that first happened to you. And this is why it's also important to get to the root of the emotion so you don't keep repeating this stuff as an adult.
Right. Well, thank you.
Thank
A
you.
lot of good information and techniques to